There's a hidden blueprint, a way of living so intentional and unshakable that it divides men into two groups, those who endlessly chase approval and those who have already risen above the game. Sigma males fall into the latter. They don't just live differently, they embody a mindset and lifestyle that sets them apart from the crowd. Their habits are the quiet architecture of their lives, shaping a path that separates discipline from distraction, silence from noise, and strength from weakness. Unlike most men who crave validation through external applause, Sigmas thrive in the shadows of independence. This isn't arrogance, it's alignment. They understand their worth without needing the world to clap for them. Psychology even supports this idea. Studies on self-determination theory reveal that individuals with high intrinsic motivation like the Sigma experience greater life satisfaction because their sense of purpose comes from within rather than external validation. Every man is born into the noise of societal expectations, rules of masculinity, traditions, and social hierarchies that often dictate what strength should look like. Most men surrender to this, mimicking others to fit in, but the Sigma takes a different road. He strips away the noise and builds himself from the inside out, forming habits that may seem unremarkable to outsiders, but are, in truth, the foundation of a self-directed life. Waking early, guarding his time, pursuing knowledge, and maintaining physical and mental discipline, these aren't trends for him. They are tools of mastery. Society often misunderstands this. His silence is misread as weakness, his independence mistaken for arrogance, yet history has shown us countless examples of lone wolves who thrived in their solitude. Figures like Nikola Tesla, who dedicated his life to invention rather than social approval, embodying many Sigma traits long before the term existed. What makes Sigma habits so powerful is that they aren't built for display, but for resilience. They're refined in solitude, sharpened through self-control, and proven in the quiet moments where no one is watching. And that's the paradox. While most men strive to be seen, the Sigma is busy becoming. His walk apart is not an act of rebellion, but of mastery, and that is what forever separates men from boys. Habit 1. Detachment from noise. The first thing that separates a Sigma male from the rest is his distance from the noise. Society thrives on constant chatter, opinions, gossip, and endless distractions that demand attention. Most men, still caught in the need to prove themselves, drown in this noise because they haven't learned the discipline of control. But the Sigma is different. He watches, filters, and only speaks when his words carry weight. This isn't about arrogance or superiority, it's about strategy. By choosing silence over meaningless talk, he creates an aura of authority and depth. History shows us that some of the greatest thinkers and leaders, from Marcus Aurelius to Albert Einstein, valued quiet observation over constant participation. Detachment in this sense isn't an escape from life, it's a sharpening of perspective. While others waste energy chasing fleeting recognition, the Sigma refines his focus, studying people, noticing patterns, analyzing motives, and spotting weaknesses that most overlook. This ability to detach gives him the clarity to act with precision rather than reacting impulsively to every distraction thrown his way. In psychology, this mirrors the principle of selective attention, the brain's power to filter irrelevant information and tune in to what matters most. Silence, then, isn't emptiness. It's not a lack of thought or contribution, it's control. And in a noisy world, control of attention is one of the rarest and most valuable currencies. When you think about it, the person who can direct his focus, ignoring the trivial and embracing the essential, holds a quiet form of dominance. It's why the Sigma's presence feels so powerful without him even trying. He doesn't compete in the shouting match of society because he knows the loudest person in the room is rarely the wisest. Instead, his silence disarms, his detachment intrigues, and his rare words often land with more impact than 1,000 careless ones. In the end, what sets him apart isn't that he's absent from the noise, it's that he has mastered it, shaping it into a tool instead of a trap. The Sigma's distance from the noise isn't weakness, it's his greatest strength, because the one who controls his attention ultimately controls his reality. Habit 2, choosing minimalism over excess. Modern culture often tells men that their value lies in possessions. The latest car, a designer watch, or some status symbol to flash in front of others. Boys usually fall for this trap, chasing validation through what they can display rather than who they actually are. But the Sigma male sees through the illusion. He understands that excess is not freedom but a leash. The more you own, the more you are owned. Studies in psychology and sociology confirm this idea. Materialism is strongly linked to lower life satisfaction, higher anxiety, and increased stress levels. Minimalism, on the other hand, has been shown to reduce decision fatigue, improve focus, and even enhance mental health by stripping away unnecessary distractions. This is why a Sigma keeps his environment uncluttered. His home is not filled with things to impress visitors, but with only what he needs to sharpen his focus and fuel his mission. For example, research on productivity has proven that a tidy, minimal space leads to higher concentration and faster problem solving, something Sigma males thrive on. This doesn't mean he rejects comfort or lives in deprivation. Rather, he refuses to measure his worth by it. Comfort is not his compass. Clarity is. While the average man might sink his earnings into flashy trophies that silently chain him to debt and social expectations, the Sigma invests in tools that build him. Books, experiences, and skills that expand his mind and his freedom. Minimalism to him is not about owning nothing, but about not letting anything own him. It's a form of silent rebellion against a culture obsessed with comparison and display. By stripping away illusions, he reveals a deeper truth. Worth is not in decoration, but in discipline. That's what separates him from the boys still chasing shadows. While they compete over who has the loudest watch or fastest car, the Sigma quietly invests in his evolution, living proof that less can indeed be more. Habit 3, self-reliance. Where boys depend on others for approval, protection, and identity, the Sigma builds his own foundation. He doesn't wait for the world to hand him answers, he creates them. This is the essence of self-reliance, a quality often overlooked in a culture that thrives on constant validation and external rewards. To be self-reliant means to stand firm when the crowd disperses, to trust your instincts when no one is there to reassure you, and to draw strength from within rather than relying on the applause of others. Psychologists describe this as internal locus of control, the belief that your actions and mindset determine your outcomes more than circumstances or outside forces. Studies show that people with this mindset are more resilient, adaptable, and better at problem solving because they don't waste energy blaming others. They take ownership of their path. That's why a Sigma's confidence doesn't collapse when people leave. His strength is not built on fragile foundations like popularity or acceptance. He has tested his judgment in solitude through failures, challenges, and quiet victories no one else sees. Where a boy without guidance bends under pressure, a Sigma without guidance stands, because he has already trained himself to be his own guide. Historically, some of the most influential thinkers and leaders embodied this Sigma-like trait. Nikola Tesla, for instance, spent countless solitary hours refining his inventions, often misunderstood but never dependent on approval. Likewise, philosophers like Marcus Aurelius taught the power of inner discipline and detachment from external praise. Entertainment often glamorizes the loudest personalities, but history quietly celebrates those who walked their own path with unwavering conviction. The Sigma man understands that solitude is not emptiness, it is training ground. Just as steel is forged in fire, independence is forged in silence. When the world pressures him to conform, he remains unmoved, not out of arrogance, but because he has built an identity that cannot be shaken by fleeting opinions. Boys may crave applause, protection, and validation to feel complete, but the Sigma thrives in the absence of all three. His approval comes from mastering himself, his protection comes from preparing his mind, and his identity is carved from resilience. This is why when others break under the weight of life, the Sigma endures. Habit 4, strategic solitude. There's a powerful distinction between being alone and being lonely, and nowhere is that more evident than in the mindset of a Sigma male. Many people confuse solitude with emptiness, but for the Sigma, solitude is a resource, not a punishment. Boys run from it because silence can be intimidating. It forces them to confront insecurities they would rather bury beneath noise, entertainment, and constant social validation. But the Sigma seeks silence because he knows that within it lies clarity, strength, and transformation. Psychologists have long emphasized that solitude, when embraced intentionally, can boost creativity, increase self-awareness, and even improve problem-solving skills. For the Sigma, This is not theory, it's daily practice. Alone in his thoughts, he is not isolated but recalibrating. While others spend their energy escaping into distractions, he's pouring his energy into sharpening his vision, cultivating discipline and building skills that will set him apart in the long run. Think of great leaders, inventors, and thinkers like Nikola Tesla, Isaac Newton, or even Steve Jobs. Many of them thrived in extended periods of solitude, using silence as a forge for world-changing ideas. The Sigma treats his solitude the same way, as a workshop where raw potential is molded into refined capability. It's where he strips away weakness, confronts uncomfortable truths, and shapes himself into something stronger, sharper, and more resilient. He doesn't fear his own company because he understands that true growth rarely happens in crowded places. It happens in quiet moments of reflection and relentless self-work. This doesn't mean the Sigma cuts himself off from the world entirely. Rather, he uses solitude as a strategic tool, a place to step back, analyze, and prepare before stepping forward with decisive action. While the majority waste their quiet hours numbing themselves, the Sigma spends his turning inward, discovering the depths of his own potential. In a society that constantly pressures people to stay connected, to stay visible, to stay on, the Sigma thrives by doing the opposite. He embraces the silence, not because he is lonely, but because he knows solitude is the crucible where transformation is forged. For him, being alone is not an absence of connection, it's the presence of power. Habit 5, boundaries without explanation. In social dynamics, one of the most overlooked truths is that most men exhaust themselves trying to be understood. They over-explain, justify, or attempt to soften their stance out of fear of rejection or disapproval. Boys especially struggle with this. When they say no, they immediately rush to explain themselves as though the word alone isn't enough. They fear that without justification, they will lose approval or affection. But the Sigma male operates on a completely different frequency. For him, no is a full sentence. His boundaries don't come with disclaimers, long stories, or sugarcoating. They are clean, silent, and absolute. This doesn't come from arrogance. It comes from a deep understanding of self-worth and the recognition that his time and energy are too valuable to waste on needless explanations. This is precisely why manipulators struggle with Sigmas. Manipulation thrives on cracks in communication, on guilt trips, shame tactics, and twisting someone's words against them. But when the Sigma refuses to engage in the game, the manipulator has nothing to work with. Silence becomes his greatest defense. Unlike men who argue, justify, or try to convince, the Sigma doesn't play tug-of-war with his boundaries. He knows that arguing dilutes strength, while silence amplifies it. Psychology backs this up. People who assert boundaries without over-explaining are subconsciously perceived as more confident and trustworthy. This is because humans instinctively respect certainty. It signals leadership and self-control. In everyday life, this shows up in subtle but powerful ways. A Sigma who declines an invitation doesn't drown in apologies. A Sigma who sets a limit at work doesn't pepper it with nervous justifications. His word stands firm, and over time, people learn that when he speaks, he means it. This saves him from endless energy-draining conversations and protects him from being pulled into situations that don't serve him. While boys crave to be liked and men often seek to be understood, the Sigma embodies a higher state of presence. He doesn't need either. He simply is. And in this quiet, unshakable authenticity lies his greatest strength. Boundaries without explanation don't just protect him, they command respect louder than any argument ever could. Habit 6, respect over popularity. Boys want to be liked. They chase approval, soften their edges, and bend their values just to hear the applause of others. But the Sigma male, he doesn't care about being liked. What matters to him is respect, because respect is built on something far stronger than fleeting popularity. It's built on character. In psychology, there's a concept known as social conformity, where people instinctively adapt their behavior to fit in with the group. This is why many follow trends, even against their better judgment. But the Sigma breaks free from that pattern. He understands that chasing acceptance is like chasing smoke. It disappears the moment the wind changes. Instead, he focuses on consistency, on living by principles that don't shift with the tides of opinion. Respect is not given freely, it is earned through quiet discipline, reliability, and an unshakable sense of self. History proves this over and over again. Think of figures like Marcus Aurelius or Nikola Tesla, men who were not always the most popular in their time, yet their steadfastness and unique way of living made them unforgettable long after the noise of their era faded. Popularity is temporary. It dies as quickly as the trend that sparked it. Respect, however, compounds with time. It grows every time someone observes you staying true to your word, refusing to compromise your values, and holding firm under pressure. This is why the Sigma often seems invisible in the crowd. He is not the loudest voice, not the one everyone rushes to admire in the moment. But his presence leaves an imprint. People may not cheer for him openly, but they carry his example with them. Long after the clapping for the popular fades, the memory of the Sigma lingers like a mark carved in stone while others are drawn in sand. Being liked can win you company for the night, but being respected earns you a legacy. And that is the quiet power of the Sigma. Habit 7. Relentless skill mastery. The Sigma doesn't compete by chasing, he competes by improving. This mindset separates him from the crowd because while most people are caught up in the endless loop of comparison, measuring themselves against peers, rivals, or societal standards, the Sigma looks inward. His greatest competition is not the man beside him, but the version of himself from yesterday. This approach is not only a mark of maturity, but also a principle rooted in psychology and performance science. Studies show that individuals who adopt what psychologists call a self-referential standard of progress, meaning they compare their growth only to their past selves, tend to achieve more sustainable and meaningful success than those who are fixated on outdoing others. This is because external competition can fuel insecurity, while self-improvement builds resilience, confidence, and consistency. The Sigma trains in silence, not because he is shy or secretive, but because he understands that growth doesn't need an audience. He absorbs knowledge without the need to boast about it, sharpening his skills quietly until mastery becomes his default state. Think of the samurai in feudal Japan or the Stoic philosophers of ancient Greece. They didn't broadcast their discipline, but when the time came, their ability spoke for itself. The Sigma operates in much the same way. He knows that excellence, like fine wine, develops slowly, hidden away from the noise until it is ready to be revealed. By the time the world finally notices his craft, it is undeniable because his results are too sharp, too polished, too refined to ignore. What makes this approach powerful is its paradox. In a society obsessed with quick wins, instant gratification, and flashy achievements, the Sigma's silence feels almost alien, yet this silence is his strategy. Excellence doesn't need noise, skill doesn't require long explanations, and true mastery is the loudest form of power precisely because it needs no introduction. When he finally steps forward, his presence commands respect without demanding it. This quiet confidence disrupts the room, leaving others wondering how he achieved so much without anyone noticing. The answer is simple. While others were busy competing against each other, the Sigma was busy refining himself. That is the essence of mastery. It is not about being louder than the rest, but about becoming so good that your very existence speaks for itself. Habit 8. Living by inner code. At the highest level, the Sigma male lives by a personal code, a set of principles not borrowed from culture, trends, or social circles, but forged in the quiet fires of discipline, integrity, and loyalty to his mission. Unlike most people who are shaped by external validation and societal pressure, the Sigma crafts his identity from within. History shows us that those who live by a strong inner code often leave the deepest mark. Think of figures like Marcus Aurelius, who practiced Stoic philosophy, or Leonardo da Vinci, who followed his insatiable curiosity instead of the conventions of his time. This self-governed way of life gives the Sigma a powerful sense of direction, making him nearly unshakable when the world shifts around him. While others bend with the winds of popularity, abandoning beliefs to fit in or be liked, the Sigma stands firm, unmoved by fleeting trends. His principles aren't for sale, no matter the temptation. And this is what sets him apart in the most profound way. He doesn't merely exist or drift through life. He lives by design, with purpose stitched into his daily actions, guided not by the noise of society, but by his own compass. This makes him both mysterious and magnetic. People are drawn to his confidence because it is real, rooted not in performance, but in authenticity. In a world that rewards conformity, the Sigma proves that true strength comes from building an inner code and having the courage to live by it. These 8 habits separate men from boys, not because they're dramatic, but because they're rare. Detachment, minimalism, self-reliance, solitude, boundaries, respect, mastery, and an unshakable code. A Sigma doesn't announce these habits, he simply lives them. And in a world built on noise, distraction, and weakness, silence, focus, and discipline will always stand apart. Stay curious, be unseen, be unfazed, be unforgettable.